Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Hi, if you are new here, my name is Erin, and on my channel I like to do all types of things, including playing with makeup, doing movie reviews and first time watches, and also talking about books that I'm currently enjoying. So if you're interested in any of those topics or would like to see those videos, I will link some down in the description box. And also if you're interested in that type of content, think about subscribing down below after, watching a couple videos. If you're returning here, of course, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you want to stick around. And by the end of this video, if you like it, hit the like button, of course. So today I'm going to be doing a TV show review. I haven't done many TV show reviews on my channel here, but I recently, my mom and her husband were watching Game of Thrones all the way through. I watched it with my mom first off. Me and her watched it up to season 7 together, and then she kind of like stopped watching it. And I went on to season 8, and I stopped watching it in the middle of season 8. So she went back and watched from season 1 with her husband, and they watched all the way up. And then once they got to where I was at season 8, I went ahead and finished it with them. And I will talk about that eventually, but you guys probably will know what my thoughts are with season 8, which a lot of people have voiced not loving that season. But I really enjoyed that show overall, and I was looking to see if there was some sort of alternative shows that I could watch to kind of replace the feeling I got when I was watching Game of Thrones. So I looked up a couple of articles that listed shows that were similar to Game of Thrones, and one that really caught my eye was this show, Britannia. And so over the past couple of days, I've been watching the show. I finished both seasons already, and overall, I want to give you guys my thoughts, the good and the bad. Give you a quick synopsis of it in case you're looking for a Game of Thrones replacement, and just kind of tell you my overall rating for seasons 1 and 2. So if you're interested in seeing that, then just keep on watching. First of all, let's go into the details about this show. This one has an 88% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I do have my notes here like always, so if you see me looking down, that's why. But this show is kind of it's a historical fantasy drama show that is set in around 43 AD, showcasing when the Romans went into the Celtic Britannia and invaded and took over. So it's based in some historical realness. It's based in some it's somewhat historical accurate, but it has a lot of those kind of fantasy elements mixed in. I wouldn't say it's like super high fantasy, like for example Harry Potter, where they're like pulling out wands and doing that type of thing, but it's more of like this like mystical, connected to the gods, witchcrafty type of fantasy. You get what I'm saying? So it's got a lot of like creating spells and connecting to nature and calling on the gods, that type of thing, like going to the underworld, that sort of fantasy. So if you like something like that, I think this will be right up your alley. I really love fantasy, anything fantasy related. I love fantasy novels. I love fantasy TV shows, and for sure fantasy movies. Harry Potter is one of my favorite movie series of all time. But this one I think has a lot more adultness to it, if that makes any sense. So this one is created by Jez and Tom Butterworth, and like I said, it's based in 43 AD when the Romans invaded Britannia, and they face off with different Celtic tribes, and defeated some, and also bartered and got control over some of these tribes in order to tax them. And they're also fighting against these mystical type of like almost, if I were to compare them, it would be like not like nuns, not necessarily, but like the religious group for the Celtic people, the Druids, who are kind of like this mystical group that connect with the gods and speak with the gods, or so they say. And then also within this, we have like a chosen one trope with this young girl, Kate, who's like the chosen one that's going to free them from the Romans. So there's also some underlying things with the Roman general, whose name is Aulus. Oh, I'm saying that right. He is not exactly who he seems to be, and there's some other workings underneath that where I guess kind of it's hinted at, but it also said out loud that he's connected with some sort of evil being. So I'm trying not to give too much away from the show, and try not to give too much spoilers here. and still kind of give you an idea what the show is about. So that's pretty much what is the synopsis, the plot of the show. And then I'll tell you the cast really quickly. We have Kate, which is the young girl who's like the chosen one, played by Eleanor Worthington. We have Kira, played by Kelly Riley. Amina, played by Annabelle Schooley. Olive, played by David Morse, who also was off of The Walking Dead, which I did watch up until like right around his season, and then I stopped watching that. We have Varen, played by Mackenzie Crook, and we have Divis, played by Nikolai Lai Cass. I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. I apologize. Very, very sorry. But anyways, that's our cast, which right off the bat, a good point that I'm going to say here is that the acting in this is very solid. I think everybody plays their roles very, very well. There was nothing that was like jarringly bad in here, which sometimes in TV shows you might have your very good actors or your noteworthy actors, and then you might have a couple like side characters that their acting is like jarring compared to like those other actors. But everyone in here really does play their part really well, and there's no like really bad or awful acting in here, at least in my opinion. So let me go into now my good things for season. So starting off with season 1, all of the good points I want to point out. First off, I think that the storyline of this is pretty interesting. Actually, it's an interesting, I love how they've mixed like some history but with some fantasy thrown in. We've got like your common tropes thrown in, which might be overdone, but I think they're kind of beefed up here in an interesting way, with an interesting twist to it. We've got a lot of different characters and things played off of all of these different characters, where they're all leading into their own sort of path and their own journey of realization of who they are, sort of thing, which I think is done very, very well. And there's a couple surprises in here. So like I was saying, I wanted to get something that kind of compared to Game of Thrones but wasn't exactly that. Of course, it has to have its own flavor, it has to have its own story, and this definitely does bring it. I think it's quite comparable, and not as a replacement to Game of Thrones, it's its own thing, but it's got that similar vibe. There are some times where there were some like twist or character death that surprised me, which is kind of like the whole thing of Game of Thrones, like they could kill anybody. I already pointed out the good acting from the cast. The cast is very good with their acting, nothing bad there. There's some nice surprises and twists within the story. You know, you think it's going one way and then it completely veers off and it goes in a different direction, which I really, really liked. I like to be surprised by my shows. I don't want it to be completely predictable. Although predictability can be nice sometimes, this, I think, definitely does not keep you, you know, just guessing every single move, which can be boring, like, to be honest, right? So there's a cool twist to it. And as a history buff, like, I've always enjoyed history. I really love Greek and Roman mythology. I think it's very, very interesting. I like that we're getting some of that, because I didn't know anything about many of these. I mean, you know, some of this stuff, but like when you get into school, they don't teach you everything, all the history of other countries, right? There is, of course. I think in America we're pretty good with sometimes getting some history from other countries, but I don't think it's as in depth as I would have liked it, of course. But seeing that kind of history take on it as well was very, very interesting. It makes me interested to go look these things up as someone who loves, like I said, Roman and Greek history and also their mythology. It's really cool to see this kind of acted out in a show. So there's also, to play off of that, the Celtic mythology and lore within the show, quite interesting. I didn't know anything about it. Like I said, I liked learning about Roman and Greek gods, but seeing the Celtic kind of their tribe lore, their gods they're talking about, their kind of mythology and everything play out within the show, very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. There's some concepts that are, you know, common throughout different cultures and peoples. Like there's the underworld, there's different gods, there's evil ones and good ones, that type of thing. You see what I'm saying? But the lore weaved throughout the show was very, very interesting. At least it was interesting to me. It kept me, you know, kind of like trying to see what was going to come next, or were we going to actually get some answers to, were they really speaking to their gods and all this other stuff. So very, very interesting. I love the different vibes that the show gave, for sure. Some kind of things that were a little bit off for me, though. Not everything's going to be great within a show, right? Even the most perfect shows, there might be one or two things that you're like, man, I wish that was changed. But apparently when I finished season 1 and 2, I went, of course, being quiet, I went and looked up some of the history aspects of what they were showing. Apparently it's not completely historically correct, which, I mean, I'm not expecting it to be. It is a TV show. It's dramatized. It's not going to be completely 100% historically correct. Mouthful. But apparently there's some things that are not historically correct. Even some of the things that they're using were not even invented by time when this was said. So that's of course to be expected sometimes with historical shows. You know, somebody didn't do complete research, and you know, they're using things that wasn't even invented in 43 AD. So that's one thing that could kind of be a negative. Other than that, it might be a little hard to follow at first, especially when they're just throwing out the names of the gods and you're like, what does that mean? Who is that? Could you explain more? And they don't explain it right away, but you do get explanations later down on the road. So I don't think that's a complete negative. I just think if you're hopping right into it, it might be a little confusing, but just stick with it and I think you'll be fine. Other than that, nothing else really negative I have to say about season 1. Now, when I get into season 2, I really, again, the acting continues to be good, and how do I say this without spoiling? There's some change up in who's the main characters from season 1 to season 2, which I actually kind of like, because then we're kind of focusing on their journey where you weren't expecting to be following those characters, but now you are. The story is more fleshed out in season 2, which of course that's always a good thing. There's some interesting twists within it as well that I was not expecting necessarily, and there also was quite a few funny moments in season 2. I think the two like characters that we are kind of mainly, the chosen one girl, which is Kate, played by Eleanor Washington, and Worthington, I'm sorry, and Divis, played by Nikolai Lykas. No, I'm saying his name wrong, sorry. But they have like this really interesting dynamic, as he's like her mentor and she's learning from him because she's the chosen one and she's trying to save everybody. And they have some really funny moments together, not gonna lie. But yeah, so season 2 are really, really great. I will say another thing on the whole story that's kind of a hit or miss for me is that chosen one trope. I think it's sometimes a little bit overdone. I do like the way that they've changed it up here. It's done in a fresh way, but I can understand some people thinking, like I've heard people say the chosen one trope is just a little bit overdone in books and in movies. Yeah, agree. Sometimes it is, but I think it's a good trope for a reason. We like to cheer for a hero, right? So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the entire show. This got an 88% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I would agree with that. I would probably give this an A- overall for seasons 1 and 2. There is season 3 coming out. The bad thing is that I think there's been different network for all 3, so it's difficult to really just sit down and watch it all the way through without having to go to, you know, this network and buy their streaming, and that's a bad part. But if you're interested in watching all 3 seasons, season 3 I think is coming out soon. I read somewhere that it should be coming out at the end of August perhaps, which I'll be back at work, so there we go. But I'm super excited about that. I'm glad that they're continuing with this and they haven't canceled it, because I think it's a really interesting series. I really do like it. So yeah, that's pretty much all my review for Britannia. What do you guys think? Have you heard about this show or have you seen it? Let me know down in the comment section below. If not, I would definitely recommend it. I think it's really good, especially, like I said, if you were a fan of Game of Thrones. This is a great one that's similar in vibe to it. Another good recommendation is The Witcher. That one I think is coming out with season 2 soon. I like that show as well, and I think I did a review on, did I do a review on that one on my channel? Maybe not. I haven't done that many TV show reviews. If you have any other recommendations, leave them down in the comment section. I'm looking for some more shows to watch. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like it if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below if you want to see more content like this, and I'll check you guys out in the next video. Stay safe. Adios.